Happy ecclesiastical new year. September 1st, our daily gospel reading today is out of Luke chapter 4, verses 16 through 22. And as always, I'll be doing an explanation by the Blessed Theophylact, who is a archbishop of the 11th century of Bulgaria and Ohrid. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day, and stood up to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, on account of which he hath anointed me. He hath sent me to bring good tidings to the poor, to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim deliverance to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord." And he closed the book and gave it again to the attendant, and sat down. And the eyes of all of them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began to say unto them, "This day is the scripture fulfilled in your ears." And all bore witness to him, marveled at the words of grace which proceeded out of his mouth. And they said, "Is it?" That's on the 23. And they all marveled at the words of grace which proceeded out of his mouth. The explanation for 16 through 21, according to the Blessed Theophylact, the Lord wished to reveal himself to the Israelites, and to show that he was anointed by God the Father to save all those under heaven. Even the way in which he reveals himself, he arranged in a wondrous manner. Before anyone else, he first revealed himself to the people of Nazareth, among whom he had been raised. Thus, he teaches us that we should first work to teach and bring benefit to those of our own circle before lavishing kindness on others. When he had been given the book, he opened it, not at random, but to the very passage he wanted to find. Do not think that he opened the book and by chance found this passage in which was written these things concerning himself. Rather, it happened as he willed. What was written there? "The Spirit of the Lord hath anointed me." That is, he has consecrated me. The Spirit has established me to bring good tidings to the poor, that is, to the Gentiles, who have neither the law nor the prophets, and who are therefore in great poverty indeed. The broken-hearted perhaps means those Israelites whose hearts were at first great and exalted, being the dwelling place of God. But later, after they turned to idolatry and committed many sins, their hearts were broken and crushed, and ceased to be the dwelling place of God, and became instead a den of thieves. Therefore the Lord came to save even such as these, and to grant deliverance to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, both Gentile and Jew. Both were prisoners of Satan, and both were blind. These things can also be understood to refer to the dead, for they too are captives and bruised, but they have been set free from the power of Hades by the resurrection of the Lord. And he proclaimed the acceptable year. What was the acceptable year? Perhaps it was the age to come, conquering which the Lord preached, saying, "In that day ye shall ask me nothing." And again, the hour is coming when the dead shall rise again. That year is acceptable. That is, it is much desired and beloved by the righteous, and it is time much awaited by all those who labor here. The Greek word here, translated here as acceptable, is dektos, which comes from the verb dekomai. I'm probably pronouncing that completely wrong. To accept with favor. With a prefix added, the verb prodechomai means to accept, to await. Blessed Theophylact uses this verb to help explain the meaning of dektos. And the time when the Lord dwelt among us in the flesh is also the acceptable year, concerning which the Apostle Paul says, "Now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation." When Jesus had read these things, he said, "This day is the scripture fulfilled in your ears," openly presenting himself to those who listened, revealing that he himself was the one of whom these things were written. And the explanation for verse 22. When the multitude heard the things spoken by Christ, they marveled at the words of grace. And that is the explanation according to Blessed Theophylact. So, I'm gonna in the next video I'll talk more about the books that I'm using here, because there's so much more explanation. I'm just doing the gospel, gospel according daily gospel reading according to the Orthodox Church, but you don't have to do that. You can read all more you want, and there's just so much explanation. So this is just the gospel, holy gospel according to Luke right here, which, with all of his explanation spans over 300 pages. So I encourage everybody to get these, and I will talk about this more in a later video.